Okay, so you know how Taylor Swift just dropped her latest album and everyone's losing their minds over it? Well, buckle up because what's happening behind the scenes with these celebrity shoutouts is absolutely insane. And I'm about to break down every single juicy detail that's got the internet spiraling right now. So Taylor's 12th studio album just landed, and listen, this isn't just another album drop. This is a full-blown cultural moment where she's name-dropping icons left and right, and some of these celebrities are reacting in ways nobody saw coming. Let me start with the most unexpected collab moment that literally made my jaw drop. Picture this: Taylor Swift, America's sweetheart, country-turned-pop superstar, and 50 Cent, the hardcore rapper who built an empire on street credibility. These two worlds colliding seemed impossible, right? But here's where it gets wild. In one of her new tracks, she samples his song PIMP, specifically the line about a showgirl's life. And when I first heard it, I literally had to rewind because did Taylor Swift really just reference 50? The answer is yes, and his reaction is pure gold. Now, before you think this was some random name drop, let me tell you exactly what happened because the backstory makes this even better. Taylor's team carefully curated these references, and when 50 Cent heard himself on a Taylor Swift album, the man went straight to Instagram on October 3rd and posted something that honestly had me cracking up. He wrote, and I'm paraphrasing here, but the energy was unmistakable. "She's poppin' right now. She shouted me out. She didn't shout you out," with a laughing emoji, basically flexing that he's the only rapper getting this Taylor Swift treatment. Then he doubled down, saying this is for big-timers only, and wait for it, claiming he's the only shout-out on the entire album. Now, is that technically true? We're going to unpack that in a second, but first, let me tell you why this matters so much. See, what Taylor's doing here is genius because she's bridging generations and genres in a way that most artists are too scared to attempt. She's taking her massive fan base and introducing them to cultural touchstones they might have missed. And simultaneously, she's getting props from legends who normally wouldn't touch pop music with a 10-foot pole. It's a masterclass in cultural curation, and honestly, I'm here for every second of it. But hold on, because 50 Cent isn't the only icon getting the Swift treatment, and what comes next is even more emotional. The album itself, and this is where I got genuinely choked up, is named after none other than Elizabeth Taylor, the silver screen goddess who defined Hollywood glamour for decades. Now think about this for a second. Taylor Swift naming her album after Elizabeth Taylor isn't just a cute coincidence of sharing a first name. It's a deliberate statement about legacy, about femininity, about navigating fame under an unrelenting spotlight, about being scrutinized for every relationship and every choice. Elizabeth Taylor went through 8 marriages under the world's microscopic gaze, and Taylor Swift has had her romantic life dissected by media vultures for over 15 years now. The parallel is almost too perfect, and I genuinely think this is Taylor reclaiming that narrative and saying, you know what, if you're going to talk about my life anyway, I'm going to own it on my terms. And here's the kicker that nobody's really talking about yet. Elizabeth Taylor's son, Christopher Wilding, actually spoke to TMZ back in August about this tribute, and what he said gave me chills. He called Taylor Swift, quote, a rare positive role model for young girls. And coming from the son of one of history's most iconic women, that statement carries so much weight. He's essentially passing the torch, saying Taylor embodies the same resilience and grace his mother had. And in an era where so many celebrities are problematic or constantly embroiled in scandal, that endorsement means everything. It's like getting the official seal of approval from Hollywood royalty, and honestly, Taylor earned every bit of it. Now, let me tell you about another tribute that's flying under the radar, but is absolutely beautiful. And if you're a fan of 80s music, this is going to hit different. Buried in the track list, there's an interpolation of George Michael's 1987 masterpiece, Father Figure. And for those who don't know, interpolation means she's recreating elements of the original song, weaving it into her own composition in a way that honors the source material. George Michael was a once-in-a-generation talent, a man who fought for artistic freedom, who challenged industry norms, who wasn't afraid to be vulnerable in his music. And tragically, he passed away in 2016 on Christmas Day, leaving a void in the music world that can never be filled. So when Taylor's team approached George Michael's estate earlier this year to get permission for this tribute, I imagine it was an emotional conversation because you don't just hand over a legend's legacy to anyone. But here's what the estate posted on Instagram, and I'm quoting directly because their words are perfect. "We were delighted when Taylor Swift and her team approached us earlier this year. We had no hesitation in agreeing to this association between two great artists, and we know George would have felt the same." Can we just take a moment to appreciate that? George Michael's estate is saying they know he would have approved. They're confident he would have been honored by this tribute. And that's not something you say lightly about someone's artistic legacy. It tells you everything about the respect Taylor showed in crafting this tribute and the care she put into every note and every lyric. What really gets me is the intentionality behind all of this, because Taylor isn't just randomly throwing names around for clout. Every single reference serves a purpose and tells a story. The 50 Cent sample brings edge and unexpected cool factor. The Elizabeth Taylor tribute frames the entire album's narrative about fame and relationships. The George Michael interpolation adds emotional depth and connects to themes of authenticity and artistic integrity. She's essentially creating a dialogue between generations, showing that great artistry transcends decades and genres and demographic boxes that the industry loves to put us in. And you know what I think is the most underrated aspect of all this? The way she's reintroducing these icons to a younger audience. Gen Z might know Elizabeth Taylor as a name, but do they understand her cultural impact? Do they know George Michael's story beyond Last Christmas playing in every mall in December? Probably not. And that's not their fault. It's just how time works. But now, because Taylor Swift wove these references into her album, millions of young fans are going to go down rabbit holes learning about these legends, and that cultural education is priceless. I've already seen TikToks of teenagers discovering George Michael's discography for the first time and crying over how beautiful his voice was. I've seen threads on Twitter about Elizabeth Taylor's activism and her groundbreaking work supporting AIDS research in the 80s when nobody else would touch it. That's the ripple effect of thoughtful artistry, and it's something that separates Taylor from so many of her contemporaries who are just chasing trends. She's actually thinking about legacy, about what she's contributing to the broader cultural conversation, about how her work will be remembered 20 or 30 years from now. Now, I know some people are going to say, oh, she's just name-dropping for attention. And to those people, I say, you're missing the entire point. Anyone can throw a famous name into a song, but making it meaningful, making it resonate, making it feel earned, that takes real skill and artistic vision. Taylor could have easily made another album of breakup songs and heartache anthems. That's her comfort zone. That's what people expect. But instead, she took risks and created something layered and referential, and honestly, pretty damn sophisticated. And the fact that these icons or their estates are responding positively tells you everything you need to know about whether it's authentic or exploitative. 50 Cent is literally bragging about being included. Elizabeth Taylor's family is endorsing her as a role model. George Michael's estate says he would have been delighted. These aren't paid promotions or contractual obligations. These are genuine stamps of approval from people who guard these legacies fiercely. Let me also address something that I think is fascinating about the 50 Cent moment specifically, because this represents something bigger happening in music right now. Hip-hop and pop have always had this weird relationship where they'll collaborate when it's convenient, but there's often this unspoken hierarchy where rappers are considered more authentic or credible, and pop stars are seen as manufactured or less serious. It's gatekeeping nonsense, but it exists. And what Taylor's doing by confidently pulling from hip-hop and getting respect from someone like 50 Cent, who is notoriously selective about who he endorses or associates with, that's breaking down barriers in a real way. She's not trying to be something she's not. She's not doing some cringy attempt at being urban or whatever outdated term the industry would use. She's simply acknowledging that 50 Cent's music is part of the cultural fabric that influenced her, and that confidence and authenticity is why it works. You can't fake that kind of thing because audiences smell inauthenticity from a mile away, and they'll drag you on social media for it. But when it's genuine, when it comes from a place of real appreciation, people recognize that and respond positively, whether you're a diehard Swiftie or a hardcore hip-hop head.
The album as a whole seems to be this meditation on fame and legacy and what it means to be a woman navigating an industry that's constantly trying to diminish you or pit you against other women or reduce you to your relationships and personal life. By invoking Elizabeth Taylor, she's placing herself in a lineage of women who refuse to be broken by that scrutiny. By sampling 50 Cent, she's claiming space in conversations about musical influence that often exclude pop artists. By honoring George Michael, she's aligning herself with artists who fought for creative control and authenticity, even when it costs them commercially. Every choice is deliberate, and when you step back and look at the full picture, what emerges is an artist who's thinking 10 steps ahead, and I have so much respect for that.